hello. Welcome back to Pinky Hooks. I'm Shania Lancaster, and thank you for tuning in today. This tutorial basically is going to be broken down into two different segments, okay? So today we will be going over specs, and we will be going over details and supplies that you need to create the corner-to-corner granny square color block blanket. It is the one that I featured earlier this week. But before we go any further, if y'all could do me a favor, hit that button, that like button, give it a thumbs up so that we can get a little bit more exposure and tell all your friends about this fabulous creation that we're going to be doing together. Okay? So if you're new to my channel, welcome in. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. I told you guys that I was going to be doing a tutorial this weekend, but what I didn't tell you was that this will be the first tutorial on Pinky Hooks that will be recorded into not one, not two, but three actual segments. Therefore, putting it in the category of a crochet along. So today we are actually just going to go over the supplies, the specs, and I am going to actually begin you with the corner to corner stitch, making your square. So this probably will be the longest video out of the 3-part series, okay? So with that being said, I will be turning around the camera so that you guys can see the specs, and we're going to talk a little bit about the yarn that I use. And for those of you, if you're unable to get the particular yarn that I use, I'm going to show you a substitute, okay? All right, so get your coffee or your tea, pull up a chair, get comfortable, and let's go over some of those details. All right, guys, so here is Yarnspiration's regular Bernat Blanket yarn. Everyone so far is familiar with this blanket yarn. It is one of the most common yarns to use to make a blanket, like, you know, the real thick plush blankets. So let's just go over some of their specs. So with the Bernat Blanket yarn, it is considered a super bulky. It is a 6. Now, if you are using the 10.5 ounces that you see right here, right? Let me get up closer. You see, that is 220 yards. That's what you get with Bernat's blanket yarn, which is the 10.5 ounces. Now, if you don't have this, or you feel like it's too expensive, because most times, I think when it's not on sale, it's usually $11.99 per skein. So when it's on sale with JoAnn's, I think you can get it for $7.99, which isn't bad, you know. But if you're looking for something different or as a substitute, you can buy JoAnn's brand, which is known as Big Twist. Now, Big Twist does come in different plies, like, you know, 4-ply, 3-ply, just depends, you know. But for the substitution to match the Bernat Blanket yarn, you may want to consider using their brand, which is called the Plush Series. But if you notice, theirs is also 10.5 ounces, but look, you only get 153 yards in here. The reason why I'm showing you this is because I am actually going to be using this, the Big Twist, excuse me, I am going to be using the Big Twist Plush yarn for the tutorial and for the second blanket that I have already begun. But I want to show you what's going to happen. So let me show you the actual square that I have used using this color so far. All right. And here we have it. We have the actual square. Now you can see this is super duper plushy. I mean, it's more plushier, if that's what you want to say, than the Bernat yarn. And you might be like, Shine, really, there's no difference. Yes, there is, because I have already picked out the other color that I am going to use in conjunction with this one. Okay, so if you remember my other color block blanket, now that was all done in the Bernat Blanket yarn. all of the colors, okay? So I wanted to find another color that I was going to play off of this variegated, okay? With the other blanket, there was no variegated, but I thought this would be really fun to do. So I picked a gold color to play off of this, but I did not have the Big Twist Plush for the gold color, but I did have the Bernat, plenty of the Bernat blanket yarn. And as you can see, okay, this is done in the Bernat blanket yarn. Now, I was good with it because I was thinking, oh, it's just a substitute. However, I'm going to see if I can angle this camera so you can see why I had to go back to JoAnn's to actually buy the Big Twist Plush, but in their gold color. I could have done it, but because it's more plushier, I want to see if you guys can see, okay, the difference. And let me tuck this tail in. Do you see? And let me zoom in a little bit. Can you tell that this one is higher? It's a little, it has more depth, and they're side by side. Now, this one looks a little bit flatter. And that's because it does not have the same, I guess, plush, if you want to see. Let's zoom in. And you may say, Shania, it doesn't really look like a big difference, but trust me when I tell you there was a major difference. So therefore, what that means is if I had to continue to use the Bernat, for my gold color, basically when someone used the blanket, you're going to feel lighter and heavier parts of the blanket while it's on you, if that makes sense. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to use, the Bernat blanket yarn along with the plush, be my guest. However, let's go back. As you can see, the texture is totally different. This one, it really is like it just looks thicker and softer. And this one, all of a sudden, Bernat looks a little bit thinner. It really does. Like it's super thin all of a sudden. So that's the reason why I was just like, I don't know. So I had to go back to JoAnn's to go get Big Twist, and hopefully that they had the color, basically that I wanted to use. So they actually did. So let me show you theirs. And I already took the label off. So this is the color this is the Big Plush substitute for that color that I wanted to use. All right. And again, and I am working on this square. Again, you can see the difference. And let me put it like this. Here we go. This will be better. Other than the colors being a little bit offer now, of course, the plush is darker and it's richer looking. But if you put it side by side, you can see that the Big Plush is, and if I do like this, yeah, you can definitely see it. It's just thicker. It's actually thicker. So again, it is completely up to you, but I really wanted you guys to see the difference between the two. It really is different. You see how thicker this one is? So that is the substitution. Now, here's the other thing. There is one more substitution. So let's just say you are in my predicament. You had the Bernat Blanket yarn, or maybe you had some of the Big Twist, but maybe you have a combination and you don't have enough of either brand to complete the blanket. There is something else that you can do. Now, we're going to take away the Bernat blanket. This is the one that I started. And if you wanted to actually match the Big Twist, right? You really want to match it, but you had some Bernat. Okay, Bernat does make the extra. They have blanket yarn extra. So, as you can see, it is pretty much almost identical against the Big Twist Plush. It is almost identical. So this would be my thing. So basically, if I had have had the Bernat Blanket Extra and that gold when I was doing, first started working with this, I would have been good. I would have been golden. And actually, I am going to use this for this blanket, probably in the trim. So I just wanted to show you some of the substitutes that you can do. And again, we're making this, you're making this as, your own blanket. Nobody even says that you have to use the blanket yarn, but of course we all know the thicker that the yarn is, the quicker that your work will work up. And on top of that, you may not want to make those squares as big as I have done. All right. So that is basically the three choices that you have. You have the Bernat Blanket Yarn. You do have JoAnn's Big Twist Plush. Keep in mind that yardage is only 153 versus the 220 yards on the Bernat Blanket Yarn. And also, if you plan on just saying, nope, I want to use the Bernat Blanket Extra. If you use the extra, if we look at those specs, now look at that. That says a 7, right? Even though it seemed very identical as far as it being plush, to the Big Twist. The Big Twist has 153, but look, and the Bernat Blanket Extra, again, 10.5 ounces, but look, only 97 yards. So I want you guys to keep all of this in mind, okay? Just in case you're like, oh, I don't have enough of this. You may be taking a trip into the store. So there you have it, folks. So with the blanket that I made earlier, I did use a letter L hook. And then, of course, you're going to need a needle to sew in your weave. So with that being said, you can see the kind of yarns that you can use. I am going to get started. We're going to move into the actual tutorial of the first square, which is going to be the corner to corner square. You are going to learn that as well as begin the first week of this project. So to begin the corner to corner stitch, we are going to be doing the traditional corner to corner, and you will need to do a slip, like a slip knot, or you can just do a regular knot or the magic circle, magic ring, whatever you prefer. So that was just my knot. That is not a stitch. We are going to stitch up 6 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. Now, I will say this, being that this is plush yarn, you will need to pay close attention to when you're counting your stitches. And a lot of people are like, well, how can you tell? You will really, really need to kind of feel your way and separate them if you have to. We're going to go back and work a double crochet and that 4th chain away from the hook. So not counting this. So I am going to feel my way. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. You're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that 4th chain away from the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and now you have 3 on your hook. Remember, we're doing the double crochet. You're going to yarn back over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. All right. So when you have those 3 chains that you originally skipped, that counts as your first double crochet. Here is your second double crochet. You need to put in 2 more double crochets into the next 2 stitches. You will yarn over and you will insert your hook again, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That is your 3rd double crochet, and you are going to go into the last stitch. All right. So when and pull your tail, because y'all know you're saying, Sean, you left a stitch. That's not a stitch. is the yarn is just so thick. If you pull your tail, you'll realize that that was your beginning circle or your magic ring. And now technically this, like I said, this counts as a fourth. And so you really have 4 double crochets. In the corner to corner world, this is considered a block. I like to say it's considered a sector, but that's what a block is. Now, you want to chain up 6 again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Again, you will repeat the same concept. You are going to go into the 4th stitch away from the hook, not counting this guy on here. So feel your way with this plush yarn. 1, 2, 3, and 4 right here. Put in a double crochet. Feel your way. Even if you have to kind of push your finger through there, that's fine. This is going to count as the 3rd crochet. Remember, double crochet. This is the first 1, 2, 3, and you want 4. So feel your way. All right. So you see how that is? Almost kind of like, I don't know what you want to call it, but it has kind of like, I don't know, maybe 2 split wings. Now, what you're going to do in order to connect this block with this one, you want to simply turn that over. And now what you're going to do is push your fingers through. You're going to put a slip stitch, not in the work, but through. 1 slip stitch, and that connects it. That's how you're going to do it. Now, in the beginning, it's not going to look like much, but keep going. So now, since we've connected our blocks, we want to work. We want to work that one area where you just made the slip stitch. You do that by chaining up 3. 1, 2, and 3. And now what you're going to do, and you see this nice little space where you got your slip stitch, you need to put in 3 more double crochets. So a block technically has 4 double crochets. So you want to put in 3 more to complete the newest block. We are doing double crochets. So that's 2. That's 3. And that's 4. All right. This is what it's looking like. Again, it almost kind of look like a little boot. Okay. Or some people will turn in and say, oh, it's a heart. Yeah. So basically what you have just done is you completed another block. All right. So you have just done, if you want to say, well, Cheyenne, how many rows am I doing? This is considered the 2nd row. You are working on the 2nd row. Now, because we're at the end, as you can see, right, and there's nowhere else for us to go, you want to, again, chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. Let me get some more yarn here. All right, so I want you to take a visual of this. Now, you just chained up 6. So it's kind of like what we were doing when we first started again. When you have to chain up 6, this is where you're going to count back 4. All right, so not including the yarn on the hook, you want to say 1, 2, feel your way, 3, and 4, feel your way. You're always going to go into that 4th one because remember, those 3 that you skip counts as your first double crochet. You insert your hook into that 4th chain, pull up a loop, complete your double crochet, right? That's actually number 2. So 1, 2, right? Go into 3. right? And go into the fourth. Now, again, you got to feel your way because you're working with plush or blanket yarn, thick yarn, in other words. All right, there's a block. Now, remember, you're at the end. In order for it to join the family, you will always need to flip it over. You see how as soon as you flipped it over, it looks like it belongs. You see that? You just flipped it over because you need to connect it. Do a slip stitch between that first double crochet on that neighboring block, a slip stitch. There you go. And now you're going to chain up 3. 1, 2, and 3. You need to put in 3 double crochets. And you may have to fold this guy down because in the beginning he will get in your way. So we need to put in 3 more double crochets. All right. Okay. So there's another block. And just like him, he needs to be connected to his next door neighbor. So we go into that ending block. This is a block. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a block. You insert that hook into the space, the end space. Okay. Not into the work, the space. You want to slip stitch to join with that block. And now, since you're working the last block, you will continue 1, 2, 3, right? And now you need to put in 3 more double crochets to make a new block. So that's 1, or actually number 2, 3, and 4. So that's 4 double crochets. Okay, this is what your work is going to be looking like. In the beginning, it will look wonky, looks kind of crazy, and you will feel like if it's your first attempt, you'll feel like this isn't mounting up to anything. It's not looking crazy, yeah, or it's looking crazy. It's because you're first starting it. And I think a lot of people get discouraged with corner to corner because they're like, oh, it's crooked. It has holes in there. Basically the holes that you are seeing, or spaces, I'd rather say spaces than holes. The spaces you are seeing right there, that's you joining a block. That's you creating a block. But as you grow your piece, you will see that those spaces actually make a beautiful pattern within itself. So don't be discouraged. Keep going. Okay, so here we go again. Now, look, it's kind of turned into a larger boot, if you want to say that, right? So you're at the end. You just made your last block. So every time you get to the end, you have to start the process again. When you start your process again of the corner to corner, right, you always want to chain up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to go over this one more time, then I'm going to show you something. So here you go. 1, 2, 3, 4. We are counting 4 back. Okay, remember 3 always makes that double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why you're starting in the 4th. You are going to go ahead and put in a double crochet into that 4th stitch. All right. Technically, you have 2 double crochets. We need 2 more. Fill your way. So that one is worked. Here's the next stitch. We need to put in another double crochet. Yeah. And then you're going to fill your way. And then that last one. Oh, wait, see, we missed one. Oh, no, we didn't. There we go. That's why I'm saying you have to be very, very careful. There it is right there. And again, I don't want you guys to get discouraged. You got to remember we're using plush yarn. All right, here we go. There's a block. That's your block. What do you need to do to get him on the same block? He wants to join and be a neighbor on the block. So you have to turn this around. And he's like, oh, there's a neighborhood I can join. And you will do a slip stitch. Okay, And look at that. Now he's part of the block. He's part of the HOA association. He's on the block. He's on the same block. And now once you've joined them, right, and he's now a neighbor, you just want to do your regular process. You want to create more blocks, okay? So you will say 1, 2, 3, right? And now you're going to put 3 double crochets to make a new block. You're growing your neighborhood. That's how I look at corner to corner, folks. You are growing your neighborhood. Every time you turn around, somebody's moving on the block. That's just the way I put it, right? So look, you need to join him as well, okay? You join him by going in between that space of the next set of double crochets. You do right there at the end. Slip stitch. Okay. Here we go. He's joined. 1, 2, 3. We need 4 pillars to make a block. So that's the first one. Now you put in 3 double crochets. Okay. Right? So he's like, wait, what you doing all the way over there? And it will seem like, oh, he doesn't fit because you know, he does fit. You need to slip stitch him. And he's like, yay, welcome to the block. There you go. Now he's stitched, but we're at the end. We still need to build another block. 1, 2, 3. I'll get some more yarn. We need to put in 2 more to complete the end block. Right? All right, there we go. And if you turn it up like this, right, and kind of, let's zoom out for a second. Or zoom out. There we go. Like this. As you can see, it is kind of like a V, but you're constantly growing it. And if you turn it like this, it's kind of like steps. Okay, so we have just completed row 4. We are at the end. We need to chain up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? We want to count back 4. When you get this, when you have to make a chain of 6, then you know you need to count back 4. 1, 2, 3, and number 4. You want to go ahead, yarn over, insert your hook, create your first double crochet, which is technically your second because this is your first. So that's 1, 2. We need to put in 2 more because we're creating another block to begin a new row. Feel your way. All right, here's your block. You want to turn because we want to join. All right, continue. 1, 2, and 3. Now put in 3 double crochets. Okay. You're not working into the stitch, you're working into the column, in between the columns of the below double crochets. Sorry about that. I need more yarn. All right. Again, you want to join. So you slip stitch in between. You are now chaining up 3. 1, 2, 3. You're going in between that first one. Below. You're going to put in 3 double crochets. Again, join, chain up 3, add 3 double crochets, that's 1, 2, 3. We need another one to complete the block. You might have to fold this guy down on the end. This is where a long shaft like this hook, prim hook, comes into play. It's really, really good. I just wanted to stop for a minute because as you can see, when you have to go in deep, when you have a shorter shaft, let's say right here, you really got to work and you're doing more of this twisting, whereas I am working my hook more so with my fingers versus my wrist. I just wanted to point that out. And now here we are at the end. The end always is going to look like it's super long, like it doesn't match up. That's just the way, the nature of the beast, but it does match up. You want to slip stitch to join to that last one. Slip stitch. And now it's joined. Chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3. And you are working in that space. You're 3 double crochets. Jeez. Trying to pull this yarn. So that's 1, 2. We need 2 more. Okay, so technically we have done 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have just completed our 5th row. Actually, I kept saying 1. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have just completed row 5, okay? Now, I need 10. We need 10 blocks going up to complete a full square, if that makes sense, okay? So look, real quick, before we continue any further, right? So here is a completed block, or let me move this out the way for a minute. Okay, I want y'all to see something because I know you're like, well, how far are you going up? Okay, to complete the size of the square that you saw in the blanket, we need, I'm going to show you this. Each block actually is 10 going across on all 4 sides. That's how I got the perfect square versus a rectangle. And how do I know? So as you can see, right, you see how those crochets are going horizontal? The next set of blocks is going vertical. Then you have horizontal, vertical, so on and so on. So how I came up with creating the perfect square, I was like 1, 2, 3, count your blocks, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There we go. Sorry about that. So I have 10 on all sides, no matter what I do. Now, granted, you might be like, Shine, but you counted this one for that side. You're still going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right. I need to show you this because when we get, let's push this out the way. When I finally get 10 on one side, right? That's when we're going to start decreasing. And decreasing is, for some reason, that's where a lot of people have problems with the corner to corner stitch. So we have a ways to go because if you turn it like this, right? We've created 1. Here's another block. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we need to go up 5 more. We need to get 5 on one side. Does that make sense, folks? Like, let me put this back under the magnifying glass for you guys. Again, So remember, how can you tell your blocks? Because each block is, every other block is going the opposite direction. So this corner one right here, that's one set of blocks. Okay. So as you can see, your double crochets are going what? They're vertical. But if you look at the next set of blocks, look, they're horizontal. Okay. That's how you know. If you're like, well, Shania, I don't even know what I'm counting. So that's how you know. So you have 1, you have 2, you have 3, you have 4, and you have 5. We need another set of 5 going this way before we start decreasing. So this is where I'm going to drop off, folks, because we are actually going, I want you right now to go ahead and you want to create 10. You want to create 10 going up. Once you get to that 10th block, right, you are literally going to stop, and we're not going to keep adding on. We're going to do a decrease. So I will meet you back here once you have 10 going up. You want 10 going up. So in other words, just to get you started, because we're at the end, you are still going to do what? Chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, count back 4, put in your first double crochet along that chain. So that's 1, 2, and then you got 3, and then you got 4. And so that last one, right? Okay, you got a block. Remember, you turn him over because you want him to join the block. Welcome to the hood. All right, do a slip stitch. And now you can do your normal chain up 3. 1, 2, and 3. You're working in between. It's 3. You need 4. Okay, so you just worked the block. Now, before I finish this row, I'm just going to turn this back over so I can explain to you. So remember what I said. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit here. All right. So here we go. This is what I'm talking about. You have now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And now you've just created 6. So you see what I'm saying? So you'll go through this row and you go back and forth. Don't ever count this part. Just keep counting, like always check your work and see how many blocks. Once you get to 10 blocks on one side, that's when we're going to begin to decrease. So again, continue to work until, and just keep checking, because you don't want to go past 10, because if you're, well, it just depends on how big you're trying to grow your square. For that pattern that you saw, the blanket, I did 10. I did 10, to make the size of those squares. So continue, please, to go up. Once you have 10, we will begin the decrease. All right, so I'm almost at the end of creating this particular row. So I want to just stop for a minute, count the blocks. So here I have 1, I have 2, I have 3, right? I have 4, 5, 6. Remember how you count them. They're going different directions, your pillars, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That end is 9, and I just joined it. So I need to finish this. 1, 2, 3. And then put in 3 double crochets. All right. And there we go. And then once I did that, now let's count that again. And I'm going to do it this way so that y'all can see what I'm talking about. Again, remember, you will know your blocks by the direction that they're going. So every other one is going to either be vertical or horizontal. This is vertical. You see your pillars are going up. So that's one block. Now they're horizontal. That's 2, right? 3, 4. Oh, there we go. 5, 6, 7, 8, right? 9, and that end that we just did, that's 10. That's how I know I am ready to begin my decrease. We are going to decrease. So basically now, if you turn this around, right? Now look at this side. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, right. 10. Okay. So on this side, you know, we created the 10th one. So that's the thing. You have to have 10 on both sides. So when I had finished this one, yeah, I continued to do it across. You have to have 10 on both sides before you begin the decrease. All right. That means right here and there. You're not counting this. Anything with the ruffled edges, you're not counting. You're counting the straight lines. Okay. So again, you had to have 10 on here and 10 that way. Now you can begin to decrease. So when you finish your second, you know, let's say when you finish the opposite side and you finally got 10, right? You are no longer chaining up 6. That's how you increase. When you are having to chain up the 6 when you get to the end, you're increasing. We want to decrease. And this is where the decrease comes in. And now let me go back to the magnifying glass. All right, so remember, normally we would chain up 6, but you're not going to chain up 6. What you're going to do is you're going to turn the whole entire work completely around, right? And now what you're going to do, you're not even going to chain up 1. Now, you are literally going to slip stitch your way until you get to this space right here, right? So you want to slip stitch. You can either do what I do. Sometimes I go in between the pillars, or you can do it at the top of those chains. All right. You want to slip stitch your way across. Okay. So that was 1, fill your way. That was 2, slip stitch across, make sure they're loose so it's not super tight. And now you are here in between those columns at your in your block. So you're going to do another slip stitch, make sure it's not too tight. And now you're going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. Why? Because you are now creating your first decrease block. So again, the process is still the same. Now you need to work what? 3 more double crochets into that block. Okay, there you go. Now, I'm going to stop for a minute because I want you to see something. Well, actually, let me just go ahead and do the second one. We're going to join it. We're going to continue just the way we have been. Chain up 3, put in 3 double crochets. Okay, now I'm going to stop for a minute because I want you to see. Let's take this away. Okay, so I wanted to stop for a minute because this is the concept of the decrease. Now you see how we already had a edge. You got an actual corner. You actually have a corner there, even though we have not started working down there yet. But when we did that decrease, right, because you didn't chain up more, you're not growing it, it literally came to a stop. it stopped. You determined where it stopped. And now, as you can see, right, it is literally forming an edge. Now, yes, it's a little kind of crazy because you got to remember, you know, right now you're still working it. It will look straight eventually. But what it just did was create the actual corner. And it shows that, hey, this was your stopping point. You have your 10. You have 1, right? You have 2. Let's do this. So you have 1, you have 2, you have 3, you have 4, 5, you have 6, you have 7, you have 8, 9, and remember you stopped at 10. That was 10. So that's why now you are just doing the decrease. So let's continue so that when we reach the other side where there is 10, I will show you the decrease again. All right, so here we are. We're going to join with a slip stitch into the next block. You chain up your 3, put in 3 double crochets. One, 2, 3. Okay, we need one more. We want 4 in there. Okay, so work all the way down to the very end, and when you get down to the end, we will do the decrease again. Okay, so now we're at the other end where we have the 10 blocks. We are going to slip stitch, right? And we're done. We're done increasing on this side as well. You've already stopped on the increasing on that other side. Now we need to stop the increasing on this side. So you just do a slip stitch. You turn your work over, right? And now what you want to do is just do a slip stitch all the way across, right? Keep it loose. Don't do it too tight because you want to get all the way over here. So you did a slip stitch there, do another one, very loose, be loose with it. Here's another stitch. Do a slip stitch, and then now you're here in between the first column. Do a slip stitch, and now begin to work your normal blocks by chaining up 3. 1, 2, 3. Put in your 3 double crochets. Okay. Again, slip stitch into the next. You're joining your blocks. Chain up 3. Put in 3 double crochets. Oh, I ran out of yarn. That's 3. We are almost at the end. We're putting in our double crochets in the last block before we join. All right. And so now here you are. That's where you have started to decrease. It looks a little wonky, but that's how you know. All you're doing is slip stitching. You're joining them, right? You've just joined them. Turn it around. Turn it around, right? And remember, you need to get over here. You need to get over here. So you will slip stitch your way over. Again, you can go either through the columns or you can just do it at the top of the stitch. I prefer the top. It just looks cleaner to me and creates less spaces, right? And now here you are at that column below. You slip stitch and you chain up 3. And now you are going to work your 3 double crochets in between those columns. You're creating another block. Okay, join, slip stitch to join in the next column, or next block rather, sorry. Chain up 3, put in 3 double crochets. Okay, let's stop for a second. So as you can see on a bigger scale, that's what's happening. Now can you see it coming together? That's why you're decreasing. You see how all of a sudden your edges are now growing on this up there. It's growing, but it's decreasing. You're basically growing them so that these guys will meet in the middle and it will look just like this. That's the concept of the decrease. You just have to keep turning your work around. Now, yeah, I know you still see this, but that's because once you do that decrease, you come back, you know, and you're going to join again. But that's the whole entire concept. So eventually, so when you get down here, you decrease again, you know, you slip stitch, you turn your work back around, you keep slip stitching, you know, until you can start to create your blocks. Eventually, what's going to happen is it will then kind of like come together. It'll meet somewhere, I think usually on this side, you know, basically it will meet. And then you're done. You will slip stitch your last 2 blocks together and you will have the completed square that looks like this. Okay. So here, I can tell where I slip stitch. I think I slip stitch right there. Either I got a loose one, but either way, you're going to have a perfect square. So we're going to continue. And basically what I want you to do is continue to do the decrease. So let's, you know, we're working on this row right here. We've already done our decrease. We're going to continue. Once we get down here, I will show you again how to do the decrease. And then basically we're going to meet back up once we get down to those last 2 blocks where we can join them as one big family. All right. So here I am again at the end, right? I'm going to slip stitch. Right? And we don't want to grow. We're still decreasing. You want to turn your whole entire piece over. And then remember, we need to get to this column. You're just going backwards, you know. So you want to slip stitch your way across. Keep your slip stitches as loose as possible because you don't want them to be too tight because it will gather up your edges and then it's going to be hard for you to stitch them together evenly. So I'm going to do 1 more, or actually 2 more. I'm working my way back over. And now I'm in between that first column. I want to do a slip stitch. And now again, work up my 3. That forms my first double crochet. And so now you can begin to build your blocks again. You will put in 3 more. Right? And let's take a look again. So here we go. And so now you can clearly see, oh, look at that. What do you have there? You actually are starting to see the actual square. That's the whole concept. You see how it's decreasing. That's why this is called the decrease, because once we join this little guy, let's just pretend we're joining him right now. Once we join him, right, now you can kind of see how far further you have to go to complete your square. So every time you get down to the end, you will just slip stitch, turn your work, and then you will continue your block. So that's what you're going to do. You are actually going to finish this right now, and I will meet you back. So when we get to that last one, I'm going to show you how to finish your very first corner to corner granny square. All right, folks, so I am down to my last corner, and before I zoom in, I just kind of wanted to show you the overall. So yes, here you are. Now do you get the concept? So if I turn this back around, right, remember when I said we were trying to join? I'm going to do a diagonal. We was trying to join. That's where that's the reason why you want to decrease on the corner to corner. You are now trying to form your, both ends coming together. So I just want to show you, yes, here is your completed, was almost completed. Your block is starting to form. So with that being said, now I'm going to go back because this is all that I have left, right? So basically, you can't just join these two together. Hold on, let me zoom in. So once you have got slip stitch all the way back over, right? Remember, you still need to form your last block. We can't join these two. Something's missing. You see, you can clearly see that something is missing. So we're going to create that last block by chaining up 3. Once you have gotten over there, you're going to finish your last block by putting in 3 double crochets. Okay, now all you're going to do is slip stitch into that next block available. It's the only block that's available. Slip stitch, pull up a tail, right? And before we cut it, because I don't think I brought my scissors over here, but I'm going to zoom back out. And guess what you have? You have, by you slip stitching, you see what I mean? Like it doesn't really, it kind of meets like right there on the side. That is now your completed square. There you go. That's your completed square. So with everything, it's really not that hard to do corner to corner. Like I said, it's the decrease that gets most people. It's the decrease. Okay, so with that said, that is how you do the corner to corner. I'm calling it the granny square just because it's a perfect square. All right, so now that concludes pretty much week 1 of this project. So during week 1, what you should be doing is creating your squares. All right, if you have to rewind this, of course you probably have to. If you're not familiar with the corner to corner process, go back, rewind it, where we're going to start, where we're starting to create the square, and just follow through. And I promise you, you'll be fine. And most times you probably need to just kind of keep going back to the decrease part. And that's to be expected, okay? Do not be discouraged. Remember 2 things. Number 1, you're working with a chunky yarn, okay? So it already, it's going to look kind of crazy when you first started off. And number 2, just the process. Yeah, when you first start corner to corner and you kind of gotta like, people get confused because what they're doing is they're analyzing. You're already analyzing like, the shape, the form of it. And people literally off the bat just think they're doing something wrong. And that's not necessarily true. It just looks weird because when you're normally crocheting, you can already from the go, like if you're doing rows, what your rows look like. But it's the same concept as if you are doing single rows or whatever back and forth when you're creating the blanket. When you first do that first row, the second, and then it's your long string or whatever is curling in a spiral, and you're just like, how is this going to eventually, work itself out? But it does. And this is the same concept with the corner to corner. It will work itself out. The name of the game is to keep going, follow through on the process. you're going to need to get a couple of rows. I'll say 5 to 6 rows before you actually start to see like, oh, it's working itself out. Now, remember, so if you are following along with that same exact pattern that I did, which is what I'm recreating now, right? In that particular blanket, there was a total of 9 blocks. That's all it was 9 blocks, all right? You have to remember that the blanket itself will grow in size because you will need to connect the blocks, and then we're going to do 2 rows of borders. That's how we're getting out these segments, you know, over the course of the next 2 weeks after this recording. So basically, what you will be doing this week, you know, is you're creating your blocks. So right now, I actually have a stash because I told you I'm doing this next blanket and in I can't even get it out, this particular color. So right here, let me see. Now, since I've created a block with you, excuse me, I literally have a total of 4 right now. Actually, 4.5, because I have more that I was in the middle of when I started this tutorial. So I'm going to angle this camera down so you can kind of see that I have 4 already. Yeah, I already got 4. So there you go. Put this back up. Yep. Okay. Yeah, so I have 4 ready to go. And the other thing too, if you happen to do this, like I have a habit of like after I finish a block, I'll put them together like on top of each other to make sure. If you find that a little bit of size and you're like, wait, this isn't the same size or whatever, remember the work itself isn't blocked. So you know how, you know, if you don't block your work, is, you know, it's kind of like in a shriveled thing. Please do not say, oh my God, it doesn't match. You have to remember each block of or each square of work you haven't blocked. Okay, you have not blocked it. As long as you can count 10, you know, sectors across on each side, you know, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know y'all really can't see that. 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you turn it around. You start right there. 1, 2, 3. You should have 10, you know, counting 10 on each side. As long as you have that, then don't worry. Your work will measure. The only way it's not going to match, you know, like if you do a square and you do another square and you're like, wait, this is smaller, this is bigger, is if you are not using the same yarn, meaning the same brand, the same series of yarn. So again, let's go back to that beginning. Remember, if you're using the plush and then you decide to mix it with the regular Bernat blanket, the regular Bernat blanket, yeah, the regular Bernat blanket, it still should measure out. It might seem a little bit small because it's thinner. It's not as plush. But if you mix, you know, like if you just do one series, you know, just use all plush or the Bernat, the extra one, then you shouldn't have a problem. You should not have a problem. Now, with that said, for the advanced crocheters or intermediate crocheters, you guys may want to tweak this. You might decide, well, I want my blanket to be even bigger than the one that Pinky Hooks originally showed us, okay? That blanket measured out to be, let's go measure it because I didn't measure it out. All right, so I just measured the blanket, the original blanket. It did measure out on both sides, length versus width, width versus length. Both sides was 55. So we're talking about 55 by 55. That's how big that blanket is if you do it with the 9 panels, 9 panels. Now, with that being said, it is completely up to you how you're going to organize your squares. So that rolls back into a little bit more of specs and details. So I did not, in my mind, when I created that blanket, I did not say, oh, I'm going to make, you know, the chartreuse, like I think I had a total of 5 of the chartreuse, right? And then 2 of the, so 6, 7, yeah. So 2 of the blue and then 2 of the white. I just was doing it and it just happened to end like that. This particular blanket, I'm trying to plan it a little bit better in my head. So with that being said, the variegated is probably going to be the dominant color. So with this one, I think I'm going to create 5 of these squares, right? And then I'm going to do, let me see, basically, yeah, I thought about doing 2 whites, but I'm not really sure if I want to do white. So if I only stick to 2 colors, then I need to do more of these, but you get the concept. So it's completely up to you. You may just want to do 1 color and then it will still be blocks because your border and your frame of each block will definitely be something different. That's what you want to do to give it that color block effect. That's the only way that it's going to work. Now, it is up to you. You might just be like, look, I just want to do a whole bunch of squares, same color, and just stitch it all the same color and have the same color border. You can do that too. Remember, this is your blanket. You customize it, but we're going to follow this pattern. So now, again, that completes week 1. So today was week 1. Next week, after you have created all of your blocks, I am just going to show you the technique because then we're going to choose our color for the stitching of the blocks together. But there is a process that I do. Now, if you already know how to stitch your granny squares or squares together, that's fine. But I want you to tune in next week because the technique that I'm going to use will actually begin to grow the blanket as you begin the stitching process. Week 3 will simply be, okay, we have got all of our squares together and then we are going to create a border, all right? So that is everything. I can't think of anything else. I do know that you guys are going to be like, well, Shania, how much yarn do we need? And I will be more detailed. Please look below in the description box. I'm just going to tell you this real quick. I do know that to make that first blanket, I was using each roll, at least with the chartreuse. The chartreuse was 220 and so was the white. So with the chartreuse, it took me 3.5 skeins of 220 yards of the Bernat blanket. Remember, I created 5 of those. So that took me 3.5, maybe 3 3/4 of a skein, just to give you an idea. 1 skein for the slate blue. I don't know why the slate blue actually had more yardage in there. I cannot remember, but I actually was able to create 2 full blocks off of 1 skein. And with the white, I didn't even count. Why? Because I always have a ton of white on me. I'm pretty sure that with the white, it was 1 3/4 1 3/4 skein as well. So again, now I am working with the plush for this blanket. So I don't know how much, it's going to average out per skein. I will find out, and I will keep you guys posted. So that concludes week 1. I hope that you guys will, please don't be intimidated by this. I hope that you guys will stick in with this crochet along. And if you have any comments, any questions, please leave them below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And so I will be seeing you guys next week to finish, our blanket. This is called the Corner to Corner Granny Square Color Block Blanket. Thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, I'll see you guys next week. All right, bye-bye.